Is your startup legally sound and protected? Are you sure? Our guest is a savvy startup attorney, and she's going to give you all the details you need to make sure your business is properly protected. It's Fab Female Founder Friday on the Startup Life Live Show. Let's glow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now share founder startup stories to help newly minted founders like some of you right there find the solution and inspiration you need to succeed. So thank you for carving out time and tuning in to the show today and to up your founder game and also to cheer on a fellow founder. If you're joining us live today, please share a yoo-hoo in the comments because I love me a good yoo-hoo. And I will yoo-hoo you back. If you're watching the replay, hey, do a yoo-hoo then. Or also you can just do replay. I want to know that you've been here so I can come by and give you a love hug and maybe a mwah, mwah as well. If you like founder stories and you're hearing some gems here today that you really love, share it with your other folks in your feed, with your community. Let's get the word out. And thank you for sharing your love on this video, wherever you're watching. And if you're tuning in from YouTube, oh my gosh, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would be your BFF if you would hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you so much. I am truly excited to introduce you to our guest, Sankeetha Selvarajah. She's the managing attorney of Selvarajah Law PC, a civil transactional firm located in Boston and New York. Her clients are within the cannabis, technology, real estate, food service, e-commerce sectors, as well as retail manufacturers. But here's the exciting news, and I want to bring up this particular image right here because Sankeetha, she just didn't want to launch a law firm. She wanted to go ahead and launch something called STARTUP DOX. How about that? A done-with-you platform designed to assist founders with cost-effective legal options for corporate formation and document generation, all with attorney review. And I have to say, I am one lucky goddess because I have shared I call it hurling, hugging in real life, lots of in-person moments with this wonderful, phenomenal female founder and savvy startup attorney. Let's bring her to the room and cheer on Sankeetha Selvarajah.
Oh, I don't have that. Oh, hey, I love it. I love your opening music. It's very Ricky Martin-ish.
Yeah, right. Don't you feel like boom, 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 boom?
I'm ready for Taco Tuesday with that. That's awesome.
I know, and I have people tell me, live viewers tell me all the time, their kids are dancing, their dogs. One woman has a bird that starts bobbing when she hears it.
You're big in the pet community.
Anyway, where are you hailing from today?
I am in New York City, right near the World Trade Center today.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm here in Boston. Please let us know, you live viewers, where are you hailing from today? And I need to do something right now, everybody, before I go another minute. I've been a live host and a podcast host now for 9 years, and I've had plenty of attorneys on board, and I know this moment right now is very important, so please pay attention. It's called the disclaimer. Folks, this recorded conversation is for informational purposes only and is not legal advice. Transmission of the conversation is not intended to create, and viewing and or listening does not constitute an attorney-client relationship. Viewers and listeners are advised to seek professional help if they are concerned about a specific legal issue. Everybody got this? Okay, we're good? A little clapper up? Yep, done. Good, I've done my job, Sankeetha.
It was good. It was a good disclaimer. I gotta say.
It's so important. Hey, to Heather. Hi, Heather, joining from Colorado. So happy to see you. A very favorite person of mine, I just might add. And then right around the corner, another delicious goddess, Mia Voss. So happy to see you, Mia. Thank you for tuning in. And hey, Tim, you're in Milwaukee. Are you seeing signs of spring? I know we're just about getting that here in Boston. It's a gorgeous day today. And I'll be playing hooky as soon as we're done here. Thanks for tuning in, Tim. So, how you doing, Sankeetha?
I'm doing great.
Great. So,
started.
yeah. You know, Sankeetha, you were here in Boston. You've moved down into New York, but you're licensed in, I assume, Massachusetts and New York now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So, I know, but let's share with everybody what compelled you to go from being in a corporate law practice with a bunch of other attorneys to go and putting your shingle out and saying, I am going to run my own show, my own law firm. That's huge.
So I started working for a larger firm back in DC, and then I actually moved to Boston, took the bar, and I started my law firm there. Then we merged with a larger firm here as well, too, in Boston. And then I ended up branching off by myself in 2013. And that's the firm that is in existence right now.
Right. So, Selvarajah Law PC, everybody. And so, you know, you could have gone into family law. You could have gone into real estate law. What the heck was startup? Because, and, you know, business, I understand business law is great, but you know, the startup community is on a limited budget. What compelled you to go into this lane of law?
So business is a business is a business. And honestly, the part about startups that I liked is the fact that they were led by disruptive, innovative thinkers. And so it was the conceptual connection that I liked about it. And they were unafraid of starting something new. They were unafraid of asking what else or why not. And that was the best part about it. It probably aligned with my own personality as well, too. And I'll leave real estate and family law to better people than me, okay, who have the stomachs and the wherewithal for it, okay?
Or patent law. I mean, folks, you know that at most startup events that are live, and I guess now too virtual, there's always that patent attorney right there trying, and everybody's trying to stay awake while they give their blurb about patent law. It's so important. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know how they do it. They, the patent attorneys I know, they love it. They get just as excited. But I know if I were having a hard time falling asleep, I'd ask them about their day.
Well, so it's interesting because whether it's patent or startup or whatnot, I'll be honest, if you're a lawyer that practices it, I mean, it's hard to make law sexy. It's really hard, right? So you have to kind of talk about how the profit that you'll get from using law, that's easier to make.
That's easier.
Palatable, right?
And you really do. You save a lot of heartache and pain, folks. Before we dive in, because I really want to start talking to you about Startup Box, but I want people to hear this right away. You coined this wonderful phrase that I just love to pieces, which is about you've got to have your dream team. And folks, most often when we think of a dream team, we're thinking about the great CTO, the great chief marketing person. Yeah, we're thinking of the talent that we're onboarding. But Sankeetha, will you tell everybody what the best dream team is for your business?
In my opinion, my humble opinion, I think the best dream team is actually your lawyer, your accountant, your insurance agent, your service provider team. Okay. Yes. So because you represent the business and these people are here to help you grow it and help protect your assets along the way.
Absolutely. And that last line, help protect your assets along the way. So everybody else is doing a great job. You know, you're building that plane while you're flying it, but it is those four entities that are so important. Your attorney, your accountant, your insurance, and your banker or who's ever watching out on that. And thank you for the high five on that, Ms. Mia. The dream team. And I don't think it's talked about enough, Sankeetha. I really don't. It's not. So I know from personal experience and watching you, you've been building a thriving practice over the last 8 years now. What happened with the Startup Docs? You know, what compelled you? What were you doing? And you all of a sudden said, I want to have something. I want to have accessible legal service for every business owner, attorney drafted and reviewed documents for your business, form single and dual member LLCs. Hello.
So without throwing something under the bus, so I came up with this idea 5 years ago. I just didn't have the tech to do it. And so in my law practice, we clean up a lot of Google assisted let's call it that, Google assisted contracts. And what happened was I was irritated. A lot of my best ideas come from my irritation. Okay. And what happened was those Google assisted contracts were missing key terms, were missing the customization that was necessary for your particular company and your particular, especially in startups, you're doing innovative things, or you're overlapping two sectors in one, especially with commerce or retail. And you're also dealing with different types of law or precedents within those. So it's hard to buy a boilerplate contract without having that kind of review that came with it. So what this was is we figured out the tech, and every single document, every single formation, it's a done with you, not done do it yourself, not done for you. It is done with you. So it really starts educating the CEO along the way and makes you front and center.
Yeah. And it also makes you as we say here in Boston, a wicked smarter owner. It's so true. And I laugh at that, but it's so true. And may I just say the Google Assisted, that's such a beautifully well-presented way of saying it. Google Assisted Docs, folks, it's so true. Maybe, Sankeetha, this is one of the things that I always see people doing, which is when they get incorporated. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but they're just trying to figure out documents online to do that. No. This is a real serious step. When you get your business set up so that you're legally protected, you need to do it right. And so you were frustrated. You saw all these people struggling, and I'm sure you saw the other side, which is, what do you mean this agreement is no good? I got it off of my Google assisted search.
Right. So we were seeing a lot of people come in that had those documents, and we were cleaning it up along the way, or we were catching them on the back end where they were trying to enforce those documents, but were falling short, or there was issues with those documents because it didn't fully protect them from the beginning. Yeah. So that's where we came in. So why don't we start this? Well, I mean, you're going to come over the dark side, meaning attorneys and accountants anyway, especially if you own a company. Why don't we start that relationship earlier so you get used to having an accountant or an attorney part of your journey?
Yeah. And really holding your hand from day one. Mm-hmm. I've heard many horror stories of docs that were, that came off the Google assisted search, and everybody signed and thought were great. Nope, not good. Not going to work for you. One of the things I like to do, Sankeetha, during the live show is when someone shares their business name, URL, and website, I love to give them a shout out. So can we do this for the one and only phenomenal Charlie Stiver, who has an incredible hemp and CBD business called Phyto Right? Congratulations, Charlie. We love that. Everybody go check out phytoright.com and check out Charlie's work and connect with him everywhere he goes. Okay, folks, you see how that works right here live. This is evergreen content. Charlie's wonderful shout out is going to be there for forever. So that's why we like to do that. All right. So Sankeetha, you still have to, though, now that you got the tech person, now that you've launched, you're still going to go through some of the struggles many founders do, just, because you're busy servicing all these founders. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that Startup Docs gets the launch it deserves. How are you getting the word out?
So right now it's still in beta. What we're actually doing is we already have a law firm. We've got a great newsletter. And once you're in the system, you're in the system and you get to hear all of my opinions. Okay. So we launched it to our beta list, which is our email list. And we took it to that level. And now we're just connecting with community organizers, and it's going to go public in about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, actually. So it's been fun because we've been connecting with other community organizers or people in the entrepreneurial space that have connects to this or require this. And we're actually working with them and say, how can we help your audience or your community so that they can have legal access earlier than they would, so they create better, more profitable companies from the start.
So important, because let me just give everybody a quick overview of a horror story. Company gets started, 3 co-founders, right? One of the co-founders really doesn't show up. They don't do the work. And frankly, they're distracted. But guess what? Because they used a Google assisted document for the co-founder operating agreement, that person has a non-dilutive share of that business that is significant. So while everybody's doing the hard work for years, to create the value, they're home, going to the beach, doing whatever. They have nothing that they need to do, and they have a nice chunk of the business. That's how it can go south for everybody. So I hope I put some fear into you to make sure you get that attorney, because that attorney protects each of the founders as well as the business. Right, Sankeetha?
Absolutely. My heart just hurt hearing that story, but it still hurts when I hear these like crazy stories that come out and they're like, oh, we got this off of this site. Don't worry. He's a cool guy. It's going to work out. He won't screw me over. I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Oh, yeah.
So cute, right? People change when you make money and you lose money.
Right.
The best time to make an agreement is when you have no money, because that's equalizer across the board.
I kind of like that. That's almost a stitch that on a pillow moment for me is that, but we're going to say hi to a few folks here. I agree, Mia. A lot of my best ideas come from irritation. So many of the business founders, the founders that I speak to, they're like, I couldn't solve that problem, so I went and solved it myself. Beautiful. And Diane, welcome to the show. Diane Quinn. She's the founder and CEO of Awayte. That's Awayte, a pet managed care platform that keeps your pet safe, cared for, and loved after you are gone.
I love the name, Diane. I just got to say, I love these names, like the play on puns. I love it. It's great, Diane. Clapping for
absolutely. I read these out loud because I repurpose this to the podcast. That I got chills. Thank you, Diane. I love that. Oh my gosh. So I'm assuming we're all going to go to awayte.com to find more information. Oh my gosh, everybody connect with Diane. That's a beautiful, beautiful business. Ted has a question, stealth mode, leading to the question, do I need to trademark the name in the compliance arena? I'll bring the goddess of law up, but we all know the answer to that.
Is your name stealth mode? Is that what you were saying? Or
no,
I think in that question.
I think Tim is in stealth mode.
Okay. So leading to the question, do I need to trademark the name? It depends. Hate the lawyer answer. I just got to tell you, there's so many different factors as to when you're doing that. In the compliance arena, so better question, and I need follow-ups here, is your business in the compliance arena, or are you trying to fulfill the requirements needed for compliance?
Right. So sit with that, Tim. We'll get back to you, okay? Because that is a good question. Yep. I'm a huge fan, everybody, of if you're really feeling compelled to launch a business, and it might be a couple of years, I say get a trademark, because getting that URL, in my non-legal humble opinion, just at least you can do the search. You're, either using the wonderful Sankeetha or yourself, do a search on TESS, which is the USPTO.gov search engine, and see who you'd be rubbing up against. And Sankeetha, what thoughts do you have on that?
So buying a URL and holding on to it, technically you're cyber squatting at this point, but as long as you're going to, or you have an intent to launch and you're going to use it, it just has to be in the commercial arena sooner or later when you are about to file your trademarks. Yeah. And, Tim just responded.
So he's saying AI, artificial intelligence, and ethics, working on prepping companies to be ready for regulatory reviews.
I realize you're not going to put your name out here, so I'll just say this, okay? If you are going to, I recommend exactly, and I'm going to mirror what Andy just said. You want to look for anybody else that has your name in the USPTO with TESS, which is a search engine that you can utilize for that. And then I would consider reaching out to a trademark attorney so you can explore your options, and to also explore your strategy on how you're going to file for your trademark, whether you as an individual or your company will own that trademark as well too, because that's the key player here too.
See, that right there is so important. Okay. And understanding why you have your dream team, someone like Sankeetha working with you. And now a quick shout out to the one and only Heather McCormick-Rimey. She has an incredible platform and community, and it's called WHRhealing.com, holistic healing services and products to shine your brightest light. I love this woman. I love her work in the world. And by the way, full disclosure, that WH stands for wild hair. When you have that moment. Heather is amazing. Please follow her on Facebook and everywhere she glows as well, and visit her website. Thank you, everybody. And Tim is saying, so helpful. Thanks. I agree. And Diane said, thanks for the loving her name in the business. So that's great. All right. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of why we're together, because Startup Docs, I'm going to have all the links so you can go check it out, work with Sankeetha, be part of her launch, and add some wind to her sail. But at the same time, add some wind and security and protection to your sail, and hire Sankeetha and work with her on this. So let's talk about the legal documents for startup founders, because so many, as we were just saying, so many founders drop the ball when it comes to legal documents, especially when they do the Google assisted search for them. Let's start off with right away the entity decision, DBA. That's what I am. Other companies I've had, LLC, subchapter S, and Inc. Let's start with DBA for an entity decision.
So DBA is another word for sole proprietorship or a fictitious entity. What that means is you wake up with $1 in a dream, you're technically a DBA, okay? And you enter into commerce. Now, you have all of the liability though, but you have all of the control over the direction, and you have all of the profits as well. But let's go back to the fact that you have all of the liability, which is all I care about at this point. And what you should care about too. So technically you are the head of a trifecta, which is you represent the business. On one end is accounting, which is taxation. On the other end is legal, which is lawyer. This is a decision that needs to be made in triplicate, which means that to decide what entity you need, you should be consulting with an attorney and an accountant, because every move that you make, a business move that you make, has a legal and a tax ramification.
Right.
They're not separate. So
right.
People live and think that they're silos. They are not.
No, they're not. And so let's bump up to LLC.
So LLC is actually a fun one. It's kind of like the interesting, the easy to start, easy to incorporate in most states, where you can actually go online and you can form it. You do have that legal shield where your personal assets are generally protected as long as you are not using your personal assets in the stream of business. But this is the way that you can have high protection from liability and also protect your assets along the way, and also have a formal entity for you to do business.
Right. And that's key. Even though it is funneled through your personal tax returns, right?
Yes. So LLCs are pass-through taxation, which means that you get taxed on what you take home.
Right. And so can you have angel investors with an LLC?
So if the angel investor has a vehicle that is an LLC, yes. Or if you want to have an investor come into your LLC as a partner, then you would most likely need to create a company.
Right. Yeah. I bring that up, folks. LLCs are great for your everyday business, but if you're fundraising, I think you need to be looking at the subchapter S or a full C-Corp. So let's start with subchapter S.
So subchapter S is a distinction of corporation. When you form a corporation, by default, you are a C-Corp. So think of it alphabetically. C comes before S. You have to formally elect with the IRS to become and taxed as an S corporation, which is single pass-through taxation. The C-Corp, you get taxed twice, on the company level and on the shareholder level. But it's an investor's dream. Everybody loves a good C-Corp.
Yeah, they do.
Okay?
They absolutely do. And Sankeetha, I don't know if you know this about me, but one of my little sweet revenue streams is I help women with their WeBank application. That's the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. It is the gold standard for being certified as a woman-owned business. So they reach out to me because the application is worse than trying to fill out a credit review at your bank. Okay, it's just really, really deep. And what I find out most every time is that when they got that big binder, what happens, folks, when you ink, you get a binder. And we're going to talk a little bit about that from the state that you're inking in. And you have formation and other legal obligations with your business, including your formation minutes, your minutes with the initial shareholders, even if it's just you, all, bylaws, all of these things that are so important. And you need to annually update your incorporation. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so forming a company and running a company is not for the faint of heart. Okay, and actually incorporating, and that's why an LLC is actually, we call it the training wheels, because technically you don't have all the requirements as a corporation does, but
Right.
you still have to comply and have your annual report. And if you're having any sort of key corporate actions, we recommend you document that with a resolution. However, with corporations, because the case law, and it has been around for over 100 years, there's more case law behind it. There's more precedent to it.
Yeah.
So yes, you would have to have minutes. You would have to have shareholder, even if it's just yourself.
Seriously. And they provide the boilerplate and the binder, everybody, that you can do. But this is why, again, you want to have your attorney on board so that when that binder arrives, they help you or do it for you. I don't know if you provide that service, Sankeetha, or...
With our law firm, anytime someone starts a corporation, we actually sit through their first meeting so that we can walk them through it and understand what that looks like. So even an explanation of their shareholders agreement and their bylaws, and then to explain when and how this should be set up. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely, you know what, I probably should put out a video series or something if it's not already out there, and just to talk about what you should be looking into and how you should be running it.
Yeah.
So that you can keep your corporate record book up to
That's
date.
right. And seriously, 9 out of 10 times the women I help, they've had their business for years. One woman married to a Navy SEAL. She's like, I don't remember the last time I saw that binder. They had moved around so much. So they had to order all the new docs, go back and do it. So again, this is part of your responsibility as a founder. You're not just, name of business, comma, Inc. There are legal responsibilities that you have to the business, even if you are the number one shareholder, okay, 100% shareholder. So thank you for diving deep into that. And then as far as if you're raising funds, I think, Sankeetha, please talk about this. What do investors like about the Inc. versus LLC status?
So LLC generally has 100 percentage points membership interest. And so you can't really go more than that unless you have a specific limited liability operating agreement built for that. So you can create different classes. Again, you need your lawyer to make those distinctions. With a corporation, you can authorize means determine how many different shares that company will have, and then you can decide how many will be issued to the individual shareholders. Yeah. And then have as outstanding stock as well. So it allows more flexibility for future investors. So this is one of those conversations you should talk about when you're trying to form your company, deciding what you're going to be doing. Are you looking for capital investment in the next 24 to 36 months? Or is it something that you can wait on until you decide where you're going to take the company? So you can start off as an LLC and convert. It's called a conversion to a corporation.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's easy to do, everybody. And I highly, I'm a DBA right now because this is not some big swanky, happen in business, but, LLC will be on my horizon as I nail down a few other attributes of the business. But I've had Incs, I've had LLCs, and I tell you, Inc. has always been my favorite way to go because I've mostly had to raise money with my businesses. So Charlie's asking an interesting question. SOPs are expected these days too, and seeing them as future requirements for insurance and loans in near future. Can you address this?
Oh, great question, Ashley. I'm big on SOPs, just so you know, standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
Okay. So what this allows you to do just on an internal end, because you shouldn't be the only one in your business that is the holder of all the information. This should be documented somewhere. It could be either through Trello, Google Sheet, whatever it is, so that you can also use that as your business process. The reason for future requirements, and Charlie, you've hit it on the nail here, in the fact that insurance and loans want to see that you have a set established business process. And so as SOP, even if it's as simple as a Google Sheet that shows the flow of action for your general assets or your general usage for any type of commercial sale that you're having or how you run your business, it shows the business consistency.
I got to tell you, Charlie, excuse me, but I'm going to fan myself first and then clap.
Good question, Charlie.
I'm going to start putting that out more often for people to remember. You need to know how your business operates and flows. I love that, something fierce. So let's talk about, now that you've got your entity in place and you're thinking about how do you want to structure it with your co-founder, what is the agreement that has to be in place for co-founders?
So can I backtrack and then start
Yes.
talking about co-founders? Okay. So
Yeah.
here's the thing. When one of the biggest mistakes I see off the top is that people don't have the hard conversations before they start their company. And what I'm talking about hard conversations is the hard nitty-gritty conversations with a potential co-founder or your partner. Okay. Just in asking who they are and how they plan to contribute to the company, not just in year one, but year 2, 3. And let's talk about the exit. How do you want to exit the company and where will they be? Will they be part of it only in the beginning or throughout the entire journey? So we actually send a 30-question questionnaire to potential partners and potential co-founders before they start their company as well.
Oh my gosh, early therapy.
Well, before I went into full out transactional law, I used to litigate partnership disputes. So I have seen the other end of that.
You've seen that is exactly. And, the beauty of having this agreement, everybody, it's just like when you onboard your talent, you want to have these tough conversations right up front.
Absolutely.
Here's what everything's going to look like. So even though you feel like you're a match made in heaven, how many times have we seen that as we dropped off the wedding gift at the wedding? It's chances are it may not come together at the end of the day. You want it all lined up so that if partner gets sick, co-founder gets sick, they have an exit out of the agreement. If the business explodes, what does that look like? If it gets sued, what does that look like? And I just thank you for that, Sankeetha. And folks can go to thestartupdocs.com or to Selvarajah Law PC and work with you to get something like that nailed down, right?
Yeah, no, it's also, you can find it online. David Finkel wrote it for Inc.com a few years ago. It's called the 30 questions you need to ask for your co-founder. I've added some obviously questions to that, but I always send people to that and say, check it out. Sit down with a glass of, whatever you want.
Whatever.
Okay. Whatever.
Or your favorite edible.
Yeah. You can say that you're in Massachusetts. Okay.
And it's now legal in New York, kind of.
The legislature went to, but it's not completely.
Yeah, I know. How many years did it take in Massachusetts?
I know. But sidebar, so go out to sit down for one weekend or one day and go through all those questions and really act as if you're going to go into business with this person. Okay. And then with that intent, and then see what comes up.
Right. And I think that I'm going to have the link to David Finkel's. I'm going to find it, search it, and put it into the. Okay, great. I'll have it in the show notes for you because I love that feature. I'm going to add that to my Andelicious Startup Resources Pinterest board as well, because that's where I like to house all those great resources. Yeah, Mia, I'm glowing on your boyfriend too. Charlie, he's the bomb, in my opinion. Yay. And I'm, and I just want to stay focused. So we're good on the co-founders, just making sure you get through that process, et cetera. Great. Because, folks, I got a list of questions here. I just want to make sure I stay focused. So when you do raise money, you have different options, founders, on how those instruments look like. Some are called convertible debt instruments. Some are called equity instruments. Sankeetha, please share which is what and what is it. Help us out.
So if you're giving straight equity to someone, meaning you're giving shares of your company, let's say it's a corporation, you're going to give shares of your corporation, your company to someone, that's an equity instrument. So that looks like they're already in the company. They're going to sign up the shareholders agreement and the bylaws from day one. When you're doing a convertible instrument, what it is, it's a hybrid between a loan and an equity instrument. What that means is that they will give you the money, and what will happen is that agreement will dictate how long that you have to pay that back. Before, if you don't pay it back or some sort of trigger event happens, then their loan amount will convert into immediate shares into your company. So it's an interesting hybrid. And then you have a pure loan agreement, which is basically they're your lender and you're the debtor.
Right. But you're backing it up with something usually in a convertible or just the basic loan.
For a basic loan, you can put up any sort of collateral and that's fine. But with a convertible note, there is some sort of some sort of collateral that you can figure out along that way.
And typical terms are, because we all hear it, so many points, so many this percent interest, et cetera. What tends to be typical?
So it runs the gamut. It depends on the sector. It depends on how savvy that investor is already in that industry. It depends on your negotiating skills. Okay. One of the things you could do is discuss this with your attorney and kind of role play on how you're going to do that. Not every investor gets the same deal, the sweet deal, depends. So because your connection with that investor is personal. So you have to really figure that out.
That's interesting. You're absolutely right. I don't know if founders know this when they start off on that new journey of raising capital, that it's not, I'm going to give $5 to each of you kids. No, it's.
Yeah. So always remember this, you are still alpha. This is your company. You are still the CEO. You get to decide who wants to come onto your team. And do you mind if I talk about the equity test?
Please go right ahead.
When you're bringing in a potential investor or co-founder, regardless of who it is, anybody that could actually own equity in your company. So you want to do this test where you look at 4 different factors. Time. Are they going to be investing any time into your company, like maybe 10 hours a week, 15 hours, whatever it is during the inception or the continuation of your company? Resources. What other resources are they bringing in? Do they have connections to certain types of databases or people or communities that would be very fruitful for your growth? Skill set. Big deal here. Skill set is about, this is where the CTOs come in, or do they have a specific set of skills that you can't find anywhere else? And the last one is money. So I say money because it's cheap. Once it runs out, that person's value runs out. So you decide if you can hit 3 out of the 4, then bring them on as an equity partner or investor. If they don't, if they hit 2 or less, revisit that or consider just a loan.
Right. And also make sure they're not a nasty person. You want somebody who's in alignment with you, because watch out, you can be handcuffed by some investor dollars if you're not careful. One of my favorite stories is a female founder who negotiated, a 7-figure investment without a board seat because she felt it was still seed money versus a Series A. And, folks, can we talk a little bit about, a lot of times investors want a seat on the board. They want, get their hands in and get involved. What are your thoughts about that?
Again, I go back to, you are still the CEO of this company. You get to decide who gets to be on your ship. Now, when you're looking or fundraising for your company, it seems like you're asking for certain things. What you're really asking for, and I don't want to put you on a diminutive stage. You're not, actually. The interesting thing about that is what you're asking these people is to partner with you on the same level. Okay. So when you look at that on that level, you will understand that you have more negotiating power.
Yeah.
And again, you have to think about whether this person is going to be an asset to you, not only in year 1 or year 2, whenever you decide to bring on, but in year 3, 4, 5. What's their exit?
What's their exit? And okay, who wouldn't want to hire Sankeetha?
It's common sense.
Well, common sense, but I mean, you've got enough in your plate, founders. You shouldn't be having to be managing such stressful situations like this without support. And I agree 100%, Melissa. This is so helpful. Melissa is the owner of Pirouette NYC, a phenomenal clothing brand. Just putting that out there, folks. You can pop that URL in, Melissa, if you want, so we can cheer you on. But yes, it is so helpful. And the relationship that you have with an investor is so very important. And you really, right up there with the co-founder, you don't want to make a mistake in bringing someone on who's just going to take the business down with their bad energy and their bad ideas. All right, let's move on to trademarks and patents. We started talking about trademarks with Tim. Let's go to trademarks first and then talk about patents, because they're much more money and much more difficult.
So trademarks are, you can trademark your name, your logo, or your slogan, okay, with the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office. It's actually out of Alexandria, Virginia. And we mentioned this before, where you could check out your potential name to see who else has it under test. And then also, this is something, if you've never filed a trademark before, I recommend you find someone that could do that. Like it's called soft IP. So any attorney that practices trademark or copyright law, the patent law is the hard IP. These attorneys have to take an extra patent bar in addition to their state bar to be barred to actually present your patent to the USPTO. Okay, so trademark is so trademarks are assets. So think of that like that. And
Yes.
they are assets, and it doesn't end once you actually file for it. People file for it and they sit on it. You've got to actually monetize your IP. That's the whole point. Okay, so take your trademark, figure out if you want to license it, figure out if you want to white label it, do something with it, but don't let it incur some dust.
That's
so I will
right.
say that's my little dig for the day. Okay.
Thank you. Don't let it get dusty. Tim, that includes you while you're waiting in your stealth mode to have it happen. And how about patents? Because this is really serious. This is a huge investment, and it is absolutely an important asset of your business right there on the balance sheet, folks. Talk about patents and what the cost usually is and the time requirement.
So patents are an investment, an absolute investment. And this is something where you want to see whether your idea is patentable. So to do that, I'd recommend actually contacting a patent attorney, and you look up their credentials to make sure they're patent barred, and to ask them, what are the chances of getting this, and what is the process for that as well too. So again, do not do this yourself unless you have filed for a patent before. There are serial entrepreneurs that go out and just file because they've done it before. For your first time, I recommend you check that out. And it could be a design or a utility patent, something what you think could be innovative and new. USPTO, I have to say this out loud, while they work with the most imaginative people on the planet, even in America, they, however, lack imagination. So you have to find a way that you can make this palatable and also get that patent at the same time. So I recommend patent attorney.
What is a design patent versus a utility patent?
Utility patent is based off of the functionality of it. A design is more ornamental. Right. Okay, there's a difference between, say, a new ornamental way of designing a, alarm clock. Right. Okay, and then where or something, maybe it's a doorknob. It's a new way of using it. That's more functional.
Right.
So there's a difference. And again, you can split some hairs here. So you just have to make sure you have someone helping you on that.
Great. And let's talk about one of my favorite topics, which is labor law and HR compliance, folks.
Yeah, it's a sexy part of law. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who else, why don't you get excited?
I had a .com in California. I think California, we can all agree, is one of the most litigious states in the country. And I had no problem hiring the HR compliance person and just say, button this all up for me, please, because I've got 26-year-olds negotiating stock options with me. I got enough on my plate.
Yeah, it's really important that if you are hiring and new people to come on, not to own the company, not to have equity ownership, but to actually work for you. Massachusetts is very stringent about what is the difference between an independent contractor and an employee. So they have a 3-point test on top of the 21-point test that the IRS has. Wow. Okay. Yeah. And so because of this is such a brain-based state with such a high level of intellectual capital going back and forth, it does matter as well. Okay.
But how many of you know about the 21 point? I don't see any hands being raised. Okay. I'll put that in there. I'll put the links to that in there. It is so important. I mean, just having an employee at will, making that decision versus other types of employees, just having everything in writing based on the state or commonwealth that you're in, right?
Right. And it's good to have an attorney actually reviewing your independent contractor and your employment agreements as well, just because to determine whether you fall within the appropriate guidelines as well. We have clients that start off as or hire independent contractors, but then we always check in 6 months. How's it going? Are they doing more work? Are you exerting more influence over them? Because now we have to think about transitioning them over to employees at that point. Because in the state of Massachusetts anyway, you are subject to fees if you have misclassified an independent contractor when they should be an employee. Okay.
Right.
So make sure.
Make
there
sure
are-
that you, especially as a startup founder, you're bringing people along with a 1099. That's great. But at some point you have to make a decision of what their role is and clarify that, especially in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Hey, Charlie has a question.
Yeah.
Our provision, good to see you again, Charlie. Our provisional patents good as a Band-Aid.
Provisional patents last for about a year until you actually file the full patent. Okay. So if you're thinking about a Band-Aid, it depends whether the Band-Aid is holding a tiny scratch or a whole gaping wound. Okay. So I wouldn't call it a Band-Aid.
Okay, so it's basically why you try to find the 8 to 12,000. Isn't it usually about anywhere from 8 to 12,000 to file a patent?
It depends. It really depends, because you're paying for the patent attorney's time in filing this, and also the research as well too.
Right.
Okay, so it really depends.
So a provisional patent is just something that's sort of hovering until you either get the funds together or you decide you're moving forward. Is that the reason you would do a provisional patent?
You would. If I'm understanding you correctly, Charlie, it's to preserve your rights while you are finishing your application, and also getting the appropriate funds or patent attorney or any other assets together so you can make a full application.
All right, that Charlie's wicked smart. I'm just telling you right now. Exit strategies from a legal perspective. You know, we all hear about exit strategies. Even if you want to pass this down to your children, please always have a number for your exit and be thinking about an exit, because you never know. But go ahead, Sankeetha.
So I actually ask about exit strategies when we start the company, actually. And it's kind of like, lady, why are you asking me? I just started this. Why do I need to know the exit? Because it helps us determine how to structure your company so that we get the best return on your assets if we decide to sell your company. So again, there's no wrong answer. You could say, I want to leave it to my kids. I want to have a lifestyle business and hold on to it for 20 years. I want to exit in 3 years, in and out. Or I want to grow this and see where this will go. Okay, so taking all of that in, and we can always adjust and tweak along the way. This is an evolving conversation. So we can take that and decide, should we make you a corporation right now because you're looking for investment within the next 24 months? Or can we just hold on to it as an LLC and then see where this goes? Because once you're in drink our Kool-Aid, we don't leave you alone. Okay. Want to see how you're growing and to go from there. But knowing your exit strategy is not a cop-out. It's actually a good defining number to know. So if I had to ask you, how much would you sell your company for today? Okay. Most people pee their pants a little bit when they hear that. Okay. And other people are like, I don't know. And then, okay, how much do you want to sell your company in 3 years, 4 years? How much would you want to do that? Once you've defined that number, and again, there's no gun in this room or to your head, you can always change it. But it's a great way to steer your ship, because say you say, I'm going to sell my company for $5 million in 5 years. The clock now starts for 60 months. Now you work backwards and you talk and you figure out how you're going to create a company that is worth 5 million around there to sell. This by default will create a profitable company though.
Yeah, it keeps you focused on the end game.
It does.
Even again, if it's a lifestyle business that you're jamming on, it's still someone may come along and say, you know what, I'm loving your brand. I'm loving your assets. How much?
Let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. Let me give you an offer you can't refuse, right?
And, on the other side of the coin, I have a great story of a company that had a valuation of around 350 million, and a company came in and they were willing to put that down on the table. This was in early 2007. And they said, oh, no, it was the board. And this, again, you are the alpha of your business.
You are.
The board said, oh, no, we think we should hold out. Everything tanked, and they sold for a couple million at the end of the day. Those are the sad stories we hear. But, the learning lessons and the mistakes we make. Hey, Diane Quinn is asking, is it enough to say I want to sell or go public once I reach unicorn status, or do I actually need to know how many billions?
You don't need to know how many billions, but give us a ballpark number because it's really for you to focus and decide how you're going to work back down. But I love the energy, though. I love
Yeah.
the unicorn energy.
Diane, you are thinking world domination. Yay!
Like, let's do this. We're taking it to the top.
Are you kidding? With your business model idea, Diane? There is lots of potential with that. I love it. One of the other questions I had, I probably should have written it down. Hold on, let me think. We were just talking about equity. Nope. Went right out the window. Oh, a lot of us are in states or commonwealths that have cannabis that's legal. Okay. And we're operating, but we have a lot of handcuffs. I know in Massachusetts, you got to grow and sell what you grow within the state, I think. Where are we at with cannabis law?
So in Massachusetts, technically, you have to grow within the state as well, too. Banking is also difficult because banking is a federally regulated industry. You'll also find some distinctions also with the USPTO because it's a federal service as well, too. Okay, so be very careful. Again, if you think running a company is hard, running a cannabis company is interesting, to say the least.
It really, really is. And I put it out there, folks, because, we want to see more of our diverse founders knocking it out of the park in the cannabis world. But it's also the industry, we're not talking enough about it. There are plenty of people who have peripheral products that are fine. They're supporting the growing and they're supporting the industry.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to get into the industry without being handcuffed with the regulations with the CCC, which is a Massachusetts Cannabis Commission.
Right. And I went to McCarter and English's wonderful presentation. They brought their people in from DC, talking about the banking, talking about all the aspects of this. And I was blown away by the constraints, but I was also blown away by some of the creative ways attorneys and accountants were finding to get around some of this. And so it's going to be a while before the whole country legalizes this wonderful substance.
Actually, New York just passed the last week before.
Yeah. Everybody's cheering.
Yeah.
And I know John Fetterman down there in Pennsylvania is like, look, we're surrounded by legal weed states. Come on, folks, get us going here. Circling back to Diane Quinn regarding her $1 billion global domination company that's going to go public. She says every woman should be thinking this way. Well, if that's how you roll, absolutely. And Charlie, coming over to the cannabis world, so frustrating. Hemp side is crazy too. Really? Why is hemp? I mean, isn't that Charlie, you're just going to have to fill me in here. I don't know. I thought hemp could just slip across borders and things are happening, but what do you know, Sankeetha?
It's the growth of hemp has to be regulated in some fashion. It depends on the type of which state it's coming from.
Got it.
Every state is different on that because you can grow hemp everywhere.
Well, folks, we're going to dive into a couple of areas, but if you have any questions for Sankeetha, pop them into the comment threads right now. I'm going to ask you one of my favorite questions, Sankeetha, which is, you've been at this running your business for about 8 years now. Now you got another little startup under the umbrella of Selvarajah law. What happens when you're having a day where you're like, what am I doing? Why did I set out? What was I thinking becoming a founder? When you're feeling the founder doubt or inadequacy, how do you shift yourself out of that and back into your sweet spot as a founder?
So by default, my clients are disruptive, innovative thinkers, right? So by default, by osmosis, I'm contaminated. It's contagious. I've got the bug. And, I just found out a month ago that I'm a tech CEO. Did not know that. I thought
That's
it was
right. You're hashtag femtech now. That was with your new the startup docs.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I should go run a decathlon or something to fulfill the stereotype. But no, it was interesting to think like that. But it's really having a good support system as well as this is a fun job. This is fun for me. I don't know. I get really excited about contracts. And my happy spot is going to a contract. If I'm in a cocktail party and I'm bored as hell, my happy spot is I'm reviewing a contract in my head. So if you see me randomly look off into a corner, I'm thinking of a clause. Okay. Don't take it personally. I'm just saying.
Can I just say how much I love that? Oh, well, but this is what Michelle Obama said about Barack, right? He'd be sitting there and he goes, and he start talking constitutional law. And she's like, really? We're going there now? Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't shut off, just so you know. And like, I'm the best person and the worst person to have when you have to sign a waiver, especially if you're going kayaking or like, whitewater rafting or something that requires a waiver. Okay.
You're like, let me get through this. No, scratch that out, sign their initial, scratch that out. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go back to Charlie. He's got a great question here. How does the social equity initiative seem to be working in cannabis and areas that you work in?
So are you asking if it's working? Or are you asking how does it work?
That's a great question. Charlie, if you could clarify that for us. Along the way in our conversation today, we highlighted a lot of mistakes that founders make. Sankeetha, what two mistakes that you just want to throw out to everybody, just as we're wrapping up this episode, that you really want them to hold on to so that they will make the right decision and get a good attorney?
I touched upon this earlier, where having the hard conversations daily, all the time, ahead of time, where you deal with snowballs and not boulders, because this is a great way for you to prevent those longer conversations that didn't need to happen. Right. And managing expectations from the beginning. Okay. So like running a business, people run their businesses the way they run their personal lives. And the fact of the matter is, if you, pause for the people who run their personal lives. And it's about, if you have good communication skills in your personal life, hopefully that'll transfer over into business. And so that business is going to mature you or grow you as a person too, and vice versa, because you are that Venn diagram in the middle between personal and business. The second thing is, there's no such thing as verbal agreements. It's done. Okay. So if that tree falls, unless the beaver wrote it down, it did not happen. Okay.
Unless the beaver wrote it down, it did not happen. No. I'm going to just, and what is it? There's no such thing as a verbal agreement. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it doesn't. Once you started and you're getting into the realm of business or commerce, you want to document everything. Yeah. Even if it's something as a conversation you've had, just follow up with a quick email and say, hey, per our conversation around 2:00 today, we talked about X, Y, and Z. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page about this.
And I usually bring this up because someone has said something profound, like for the journey, but this is profound for your business people. No verbal agreements, period, end of story, right? You're a business owner. Take care of that. Okay, so Charlie's come back. How is it working, the social equity initiative?
The social equity initiative. So let me be honest. It's only as effective. We'll see it in action because a lot of the licenses were in limbo for quite some time. The commission started now issuing them. So it's a TBD. We'll see how it's working by how much funds those social equity initiative or those recipients will get, okay, or how much access they would have. So it's really about accessibility to funds and also to resources to actually grow it. So I'm going to withhold judgment. I want you to check up with me in 6 months though, okay, Charlie, because I can have a better answer to that, a more diplomatic answer. Let's say that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love that. And I want to apologize, Sankeetha. I had my banner going on the bottom the whole time. So I am just going to be putting everything out front and center. Everybody, this is how you find this amazing attorney. I recommend her to everybody I talk to. You want this level of support with you in your business, and someone who's sitting there and when she's bored at a cocktail party is thinking about contract law and maybe thinking about your business while she's at it. And so you're going to visit, of course, the startupdocs.com, but you're also going to visit it's coming around here, Selva Law, SELVALAW.com. At Selva Biz Law is where you can find Sankeetha on Instagram and on Twitter. And Tim, thank you for this. Tim says, thanks much for the topic and your time today, Ande and Sankeetha. This has been a great help at the perfect time. Yes, profound help all the way through. Wonderful. Yay, Tim. And Charlie's following up, mostly going to delivery services and hearing so far. So
that's the ancillary businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and then Charlie, thank you, Charlie, too. Good high value content. Thank you. You are very, very welcome. And Sankeetha, I just want everybody seriously to know who you are and to use your law firm, the startupdocs.com to get the support they need. You are definitely an Andelicious startup resource in my world. I'm so grateful you came on board with your amazing advice and insights. I can't wait to share this episode everywhere I go. I'm going to pop you into the green room. I'll see you as soon as I do my closing. And hey, Diane, thank you for tuning in. Diane says, thank you for sharing your knowledge. Great help. Yay. And to anybody else who's been out there viewing, please, you see this woman right here. This is me. Yeah. To Sankeetha. In protecting you. Be protected. Your business, even if you feel like it may not make it, whatever, be protected with the right dream team. And that includes Sankeetha Selvarajah. Okay, Sankeetha, I'll see you on the other side. I'm going to leave your banner up right there while I do my final hello and goodbye to everybody. All right. You can tell I am a devoted fan of this incredible attorney, this incredible female founder, and everything she's doing. It's so important. When you start a business, there's a lot. I mean, you really are building the plane as it takes off, and you're trying to handle so much. Bring on the person who's going to have your best interests in mind at all time. Yay. Thank you. And Melissa, you're an attorney yourself, I believe. So you understand how important that this is. Melissa just put in a comment saying, can't wait to share this episode across my socials. I'm going to be breaking it up into sound bites and maybe some TikTok as well. I want to share with all of you. And by the way, if you have any comments, throw them in the comments thread. You're watching this in the replay. Be sure to reach out. We're here to make sure that you have an Andelicious experience on this show. So I want to bring up our guest coming this Tuesday. Speaking of building the plane and flying it and trying to do everything, we have Jill Katz. She is the founder of, and she calls herself the Chief Change Officer of Assemble HR. And it's a consulting, boutique human resources firm that focuses on culture, communication, and conflict in the workplace. And she's bringing her best practices for assembling an aligned team because she knows how hard it is. How many of you, after raising the money for your business, went on trying to get the top talent and went, oh my gosh, it was easier to raise the money. And I thought that was impossible. It's hard, but Jill has great advice for all of us to help us have a smooth journey, help you have a smooth journey in hiring the right people, but also establishing that culture right up front. And I love her name. I always think of the Avengers, founders assemble. That's what I think when I think of Assemble HR. As I sign out today, I just want to remind you of this. Okay, please hold this deep in your heart. That is that you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think. And I know that you'll figure it out because you're a founder. You're a problem solver. And so with the right help, with the dream team, with everybody in place, you do have this. You got this. Until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Mwah! Until next time.